Well, just got out of the theater, just saw Flight Risk, and overall, I thought it was a pretty terrible movie. That's my brief thought on it. Yeah, it's supposed to be kind of a action thriller on a small airplane, and to be honest, it wasn't that thrilling. I was hoping a little more thrills. For most of the movie, it was kind of boring. They're just up in a small plane talking, and not a lot happening. There's just like maybe 2-3 moments that are kind of thrilling and exciting, but just not enough for me to make this a great, exciting thriller. Mark Wahlberg just was horrible, just really horrible performance, really over the top. I think probably the worst Mark Wahlberg performance I've ever seen. Topher Grace, he's kind of the comedic sidekick character, I guess, and he's trying to be funny. It was just cringy. The dialogue was all terrible and cringy overall. Some really stupid moments. And it just felt like this humor, he just kept making jokes the whole movie, and the humor just didn't fit the tone of the movie. I guess I figured the movie was going to be more tense, and he kept throwing out jokes. I'm like, really? Throwing out jokes? Some movies it works. This one, it didn't work for me. It was just like, okay, that was a stupid joke. Why do you make that during this situation? Should be very tense. I mean, a lot of implausible things were happening, I feel like, and just a lot of stupid decisions made in the movie, and just not a very exciting movie overall. Just a really dull movie. I would not recommend this one, but that's my brief thoughts. I'll talk more when I get back. Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And yeah, I'm reviewing the movie Flight Risk that just came out today. You saw my brief thoughts when I came out theater. I've been home for a little bit now, but I'm ready to talk more about the movie itself. Like I said, this movie actually, I didn't really know that much about going in. I never saw a trailer for it. I just saw it was a movie called Flight Risk, and I saw like a poster, and I saw it was by Mel Gibson directing it. Saw all I knew was Mark Wahlberg was in it. So I thought he was like the main character, the hero of the movie. And I guess in my mind, I thought it's like a movie where they're on an airplane and Mark Wahlberg's like an air marshal, and there's a prisoner on the plane and gets loose, and they have to fight in the plane, and they have to land it and all this. That's what I was thinking going into this movie, because like I said, I didn't really know a lot, but I thought, oh, it's going to be exciting. There's going to be these thrills, they're in a plane, so they're in danger of crashing, but they're hand fighting in this plane maybe, or shooting or whatever, and then they're going to get out of the plane, and then there are going to be more action scenes. So I thought it was like this action thriller type movie. That's what I was kind of expecting out of it, and we don't really get that in the movie. I feel like I was really underwhelmed by the whole movie itself from what I was expecting, I guess, in my mind, what I thought it might be. Yeah, because the movie we get, the whole movie is about this guy played by Topher Grace, who I didn't even know was in the movie. I was like, oh, Topher Grace is in here. Hadn't seen him in a while. But at first I thought, is he the bad guy? I was thinking, is he the villain? He's not a great villain-like character. He's more of a comedic kind of character. But anyway, so we get him at the beginning, and he gets captured by this U.S. Air Marshal, this female, who I didn't even know who I didn't look up who the actress was, but I don't know. She looked kind of familiar. I wonder if I've seen her somewhere. I'll have to look it up afterwards. But so she captures him. He's like working for some mob boss in America, and they're in Alaska. He's kind of hiding out in Alaska, and he's like an accountant, I think, that moves the money around, whatever, as he says. So they capture him, and they're going to need to fly him from wherever they are in Alaska to Anchorage, Alaska, to get on another plane, I think, to get over to like New York or something. Anyway, so that's a whole movie. She's trying to transfer this fugitive, or this prisoner, as he calls a witness. He says, I'm not a prisoner, I'm a witness, because he's going to testify, I guess, what he's done. Anyway, so obviously he's in danger of getting killed by this mob boss. Anyways, that's kind of what it is. So they get on this small plane. Mark Wahlberg turns out to be the pilot of the plane. Anyways, so that's the beginning part. To talk more about the movie, I think I'm just going to do a little spoilers here. Not major spoilers, I think, but some minor spoilers to talk about some of the main parts of the movie and why I didn't like it. So warning, spoilers for this movie. And the non-surprise, and I don't feel like it's much of a spoiler, because once I figured out that, oh, Mark Wahlberg, he's not the air marshal, this other girl is, and he's just the pilot, I kind of knew as soon as he showed up and they were in this very small plane that only handled like 3 people, really, really small plane. And he was very overly animated, and he had like this thick Southern accent for some reason, and he was kind of jokey, and he was very talkative and very outgoing. And as soon as he started talking, I was like, oh, he's the villain of the movie. Like, I was like, of course. Like, why else would you have Mark Wahlberg? You wouldn't hire Mark Wahlberg, who's the biggest name in this movie. You wouldn't hire him just to be the pilot. He has to have a bigger role than just the pilot. So, and I know there's got to be a villain in this movie. So I'm like, and it feels like early on, Topher Grace wasn't the villain. You just kind of get the sense that he didn't have that menacing style to him. And so as soon as he showed up and he talked, I was like, oh, he's the villain. Like, it was so easy. And I suppose they weren't trying to hide it, because it doesn't take that long into the movie before you find out that he is the villain that is hired by the mob boss to kill this witness. So Topher Grace's character, so he doesn't, testify. Which is a basic plot. It feels like we've seen this kind of plots before of, a witness and someone's trying to kill him, and then the police marshal, whatever, has to protect the witness to get him to the trial. It's not anything new or original as far as that's concerned. And like I said, yeah, you just kind of knew, you're like, why else would Mark Wahlberg be in here? And why is he being so weird? And you're like, yeah, it's one of those where you're like, man, I predicted the movie like right away, which kind of makes you go, that's not a good thing. I think they should have made it a little more again, if you're going to hire Mark Wahlberg, it's too easy. To me, they should have hired somebody that was not as recognizable as Mark Wahlberg, and then maybe the suspense would have lasted a little bit longer. And so when they start revealing, like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't the pilot, this isn't the guy that we thought he was, you might be a little surprised, like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. But when you see it coming from the very first, it kind of ruins the whole mystery, ruins kind of the plot of the movie to me. It's like, I don't know, I don't like it. Kind of set the movie on a bad start right away. I'm like, gosh, I already know who the bad guy is. It's no mystery. It's supposed to be a mystery, but it's not a mystery, and that's not a good thing. I think from a writing standpoint, it's not good screenplay writing, in my opinion. Yeah, because, yeah, like I said, it gets in there, and once I knew, I was like, okay, I know somehow they're going to figure it out. That's going to be the plot of the movie, is they're going to figure out that, wait a minute, this isn't the pilot we thought, that's supposed to, transfer us, whatever. And they do have that reveal where Topher Grace's character sees something, and he's like, wait a minute. And then also she starts putting together, she starts asking questions, they're not matching up, and she's starting to get a feeling like something's not adding up. And so okay, she's going to figure it out pretty soon. And then there's going to be a fight. So you're just waiting for that moment where she figures out and calls him out on it, and then they're going to have to fight up there. Anyway, so of course that scene happens. But I mean, coming up to that scene, there's some thrills there. Oh, and I was going to say, I mean, it's not a bad premise overall. Like, the interesting part of the premise is that they're on a small plane and they're in the air. By the time she figures it out, of course, they're up in the air already traveling. And they're in Alaska, so they're in like this mountainous area where there's no civilization. There's no good place to land the plane. And of course, he's the only person who knows how to fly the plane. So that's a pretty good, conflict, danger, The guy that's trying to kill us is also the only guy who knows how to fly this plane. So it's like, you don't want him to kill you, but at the same time, or you don't want to kill him because you might need him, but yet again, you can't trust him to fly the plane. So somehow you're going to have to incapacitate him and then get a hold of somebody and try to, that's kind of what happens anyways. But it is a kind of interesting idea like, I was watching it going, I was thinking if I was in that place, yeah, I'd be so freaked out, because I'd be like, oh my God, we're going to die. Like, the bad guy is the pilot. We're in this plane, we have nowhere to escape, and we could possibly crash and land. We could possibly crash and die, and that would suck. Or this guy's going to fly somewhere and then kill us. That's going to suck. So it's like, there's almost no win-win situation. It's a terrible situation. It's a good premise for a movie in that sense. Now, where the movie kind of falls apart for me is when again, spoilers for it, but they do get into a fight, and Mark Wahlberg's character gets knocked out, and the marshal ties him up kind of to the plane and makes it hard for him, anyways, he's knocked out. And so now it's just her and Topher Grace, and now they got to figure out what to do with the plane, how they're going to land it, what they're going to, that kind of thing. And to me, the movie just kind of slowed down, way slowed down. It was like, I'm kind of interested, like, how they're going to figure out he's the bad guy, what they're going to do when they figure it out. And then once they incapacitate him, it was like, okay, that's done. Now what? We're just going to try to land the plane. That's not that interesting of a plot of a movie. And that's a lot of the movie is just them in the plane trying to contact people and go, oh, what do we do? And them going, oh, you do this, you do that. She also calls her office, the U.S. Marshal Office, and there's this whole side plot line of like a mole in the marshals, I guess, and someone tips someone off, you know. So you got this whole thing going. She's on the phone while she's flying, and to me, it was just really boring. Like that whole part, a big chunk of the movie, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the movie. Like I really want to get out of this plane and do something interesting. Something not interesting watching two people, you know, banter and flying this plane and trying to find someone to help them. So yeah, I thought the whole plot just didn't work at that point. There needed to be some more excitement, need to be some more danger, some more thrilling stuff needs to happen, and it didn't really happen too much. There's just a couple of scenes, like I said, like that first scene when they figure out he's the bad guy, and that's a interesting action sequence. Not the best action sequence, but somewhat interesting. Well, let's talk about Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg as the villain. It was a horrible performance. Like I said in my intro, it was such a bad performance. At first he's kind of, he's kind of a fun character. He's kind of, like I said, he's kind of joking around and he's kind of got his fun accent. And then one of the weirdest things is once he gets revealed, he has a hat on, his hat falls off, and he ends up he has a toupee. His toupee falls off, and then he's bald. Not fully bald, just like he has, like he's balding, and he has hair on the sides, but no hair. It's such a weird look. All of a sudden, to go, did they need to make this guy bald? It doesn't come into play anywhere in the movie. Like he doesn't need to be bald. It does nothing for the plot or for the character. It's just a weird look. And the whole time I'm thinking, well, who made that choice? That's such a weird choice to make on Mark Wahlberg. It just made him kind of almost laughable of a villain, and couldn't take him seriously kind of villain because of that, I think. But anyways, he's such over the top evil. Once he kind of reveals that, yeah, he's the bad guy there to kill him. He just over the top, bad guy kind of acting, and there's so many shots of just close-ups of Mark Wahlberg's face, and he just has this really evil looking face, all the time. And it's like, oh my God, like, and he's, again, as a villain, as he wakes up, he's tied up. He's constantly, of course, saying stuff to them to bother them, and he's saying weird stuff, and he's making weird noises, and it's like, I don't know, it was just so stupid and over the top villain. Mark Wahlberg is a good actor when given the right role, given the right character, and he can do action comedy even. He has a comedic part of him as well. I don't know, he's not good at this character, I can tell you that, playing like the psycho villain. It's so weird that he's a hitman, but yet he's like a psycho serial killer. He acts like just a psychotic individual, talking about psycho things and what he's going to do to them. And he constantly is referencing he's going to rape Topher Grace's character, and he's just being super creepy for some reason. It didn't really fit with a hitman to me. Like okay, why does he keep giving off these rapey vibes? Like that was so weird of a character choice for him, I think, and it didn't really work. And I mean, we're supposed to be scared of him. I'm like, oh geez, like he's not your normal hitman. He's a psychotic, killer who loves to kill for fun. It's like, okay, I don't think it worked in this situation. So yeah, just a terrible character overall. And like I said, he's tied up for most of the movie. For 85% of the movie, he's just tied up and he's just yelling things at him and doing stuff and trying to figure out a way to get out. And it's like, wow, what a boring way to deal with the main villains. Just have him, not dangerous at all. He does get out. Like I said, the spoiler. Obviously, he has to get out at some point. You can't just have him sit there for the whole movie. So he eventually gets out, and they have to fight him again. And that's a big part of the movie. And they, anyways, and there's just, I don't know. I'm trying to think how all the stupid stuff, but there's just so many stupid stuff. Like one of the stupidest things I thought in the movie was the air marshal, after he reveals he's a bad guy and they have the big fight and she somehow knocks him out. And this whole time, Topher Grace's character is, not only does he's handcuffed, but he has this chain like wrapped around, like he's very, chained up and can't get loose and can't do anything. And so after this happens, he's like, why don't you get me free and I can help you? She's like, no, I can't do that. Like I'm by the book, air marshal, whatever. Air marshal, I say U.S. marshal really. But I'm the by the book U.S. marshal and you're a prisoner, and so I can't let you free, you know? And it's like, what a stupid decision. You're in the air in an airplane. There's nowhere to go for this guy to escape. You have this killer still alive, still a threat to you. It's like, what would be, why would you not want him to be, you know, free to help you? And so she reluctantly like takes the chain off, but he's like, can you unhandcuff me? She's like, no, I can't unhandcuff you, you know. I'm not letting you free, you know, this kind of attitude. And you're like, what an idiot. What a stupid decision. The threat is the Mark Wahlberg character, not the Topher Grace character. It doesn't make any sense to not free him and let him help you in case that guy attacks you again. And he got 2-on-1 and he's fully, even though he's not a fighter, at least that's better than just 1-on-1. It's not the best situation, but, you know, anyway, so to me that was stupid. In fact, she doesn't unhandcuff until towards the end of the movie, and then she finally unhandcuffed. I'm like, geez, finally she unhandcuffed. It's like, this guy's not a threat to you. Why you have him handcuffed? It's just so stupid. Anyway, so there's decisions like that. Like, there's a knife involved, and then the knife is dropped, and she never picks up the knife. And then Mark Wahlberg gets a knife at one point. It's like, man, why don't you have any kind of training? Shouldn't you know? Make sure all the weapons aren't not in sight. Also, keep an eye on the guy so he doesn't get, he doesn't get free and attacks you. Like, should have been like, Topher Grace, keep an eye on this guy the whole time, and I'll fly the plane, whatever, and just eye this guy and tell me if he's doing anything. So there's a lot of stupid decisions like that. I suppose it needs to be made to make the movie, but yeah, logically, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. The whole time I'm thinking, yeah, because once she gets a hold of somebody that helps her fly the plane, it's like, you don't need Mark Wahlberg anymore. And he says, if you shoot me, you might, hit the fuel or something. So it's like, she can't shoot him, but she can stab him to death or something like that, or bash his head with the fire extinguisher, or do something. Like, I'm thinking, yeah, kill this guy, throw him overboard, and we don't need him alive anymore. All he is a threat to your survival at this point. And there's no reason to keep him alive, because he's always going to be a threat as long as he's on there. So I'm thinking, yeah, just get rid of this guy, or shoot him up close or something, whatever. Because and of course it comes to bite them in the butt because he gets free again. Anyways, but there's a lot of stupid decisions like that, I thought, throughout the movie. Topher Grace's character was a super annoying character, and it just didn't make sense. Another big problem in the movie is, like, this is a very high intense situation. This is a very, we're in a bad situation and we need to do, we have some urgency. There's some urgency here. And I feel like they're a little nonchalant. Like, oh, we're on a plane. We don't know how to fly. We could crash and die. We've got this psycho killer back here who could kill us. And the way the female U.S. Marshal talked, it wasn't enough urgency in her voice. It should have been a little more excited, a little more like, oh my God, do this, do that, let's do this. It should have been more. And she just kind of was a little too calm for my taste. And even Topher Grace's character was always telling jokes. And this was what I have to say about him. I know they had him there because Topher is a comedic actor. So they're like, all right, we're going to write comedic lines for you. And throughout the whole movie, he's just constantly saying one-liners and funny stuff, comebacks and everything. And I'm thinking, you would not be telling jokes in this kind of situation where you'd be afraid of your life. There should be more fear in them. I guess I feel like they didn't show that they were very afraid. Like, this was a very scary situation they're in, and then you do something quickly or they're gonna die. There should have been more of that. But yeah, he's kept telling jokes. I'm like, okay, I thought this was kind of a suspense thriller movie, but when you tell these stupid, corny jokes all the time, and I'm like, is it a comedy? Like, the tone just didn't work. Like, maybe a joke every once in a while, but every single line seemed like it was a joke from Topher Grace. And it just you didn't need it. It wasn't funny. It didn't help the situation. Like, I wanted more tense, thrilling, type acting and less jokey acting. I guess that was my take. It was like, there should have been a little more of a suspense thriller and less of a comedy. I think that would have worked a lot better in this situation, because I could have been on board of like, yeah, this is a scary situation. Let's, show me that you're scared. Make me kind of scared for you. And I didn't feel that like I wish I did. The dialogue was really horrible. I'd say there were so many bad, especially Mark Wahlberg. And again, not their fault. Just whoever wrote it just wrote a very bad screenplay. And like, he tells this joke of like, what's the last thing that goes through your mind when you crash a plane? Your butt. And it's like, okay, that's an old joke we've all heard before. and it's not funny, and it's just stupid, and it's like it's a old cliche joke thing. I don't know. It's like, and Mark Wahlberg says it, and has a evil laugh, and he's just so evil, and just that's all he is this evil guy, and it's like, okay, that's way too much, and it's just we didn't need that stupid. It just came out of nowhere, and you're like, what? This is so stupid. Anyways, but the worst maybe dialogue ever was she finally gets a hold of a pilot, like, or somebody's, from air control, that's going to talk to her and what to do with the plane, how, keep it level, turn it this way, head this direction. What's your, how fast are you going? How high up in the air are you? All these questions, and then how do you land the plane? It's that kind of person that you always get in these kind of movies. But the very first thing, he's like, and his name is Hassan. He's like, I'm Hassan. I'm gonna help you out. It's like, okay, this is what's going on and what we're gonna do. And then he goes, what are you gonna do after this? Like, this is the very first time they meet on the phone, whatever. And he goes, well, what are you doing after all of this? And she's like, what do you mean? Like, you asking me out? And she's like, well, if and the whole, and I was like, really? Like, is this the bad guy? I was like, why would a normal person talk this way do normal people talk this way when they're trying to talk someone how to fly a plane, hit on them, ask them out to date? It was so weird. I was like, what is going on here? I don't understand what this conversation is. And every time he's on the phone with her, he's like, yeah, hey, I'm a handsome man, and she's like, and then she's like flirting back with him. And I'm like, why are you guys flirting? This is a terrible, scary situation. You shouldn't be smiling. She's like smiling and flirting. Oh, are you really that handsome? And he's like, well, when you land the plane, you'll find out. It's like, we're talking about going on a date. She's in danger of dying. Like, it's terrible, terrible danger. She's in an airplane ready to crash, or the psycho killer is going to murder her and also rape them, because he keeps talking about raping them. So it's like, yeah, this is not the time to flirt with some guy on the phone. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. It was one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in a movie. I was like, and the whole time, we're gonna go out dancing when you land that plane. I'll take you out dancing. Hey, we got a date at 6:05. I'm not kidding. That was the dialogue between them, and I thought, this can't be real. This guy's got to be like a bad guy or something. It turns out not to be. It's just, I guess they're just flirting on the phone in the worst situation you can ever be in. It just, oh my gosh, so stupid. So yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say, except that it was just a really stupid movie, really stupid things happening, some horrible dialogue, some horrible acting. There's a reason why this is put out in January. January is where you put out your bad movies. This is the first movie I saw this year, and I'm always say it was a terrible movie. It's the worst movie I've seen this year, and yet the best movie, I guess, because it's the only movie I've seen this year. But I'm going to say this is, I don't know if it's going to be a top 10 worst movie, but it'll be in there for a while until I see some more worst stuff. But definitely in contention for like the worst movie of the year, and it's the first movie I've seen. So yeah, and again, and this is my thing, is like, I think if they could have made something interesting out of this, because it's actually an interesting premise. What I would have done, I was watching this thinking, this is what I wanted to see, or what I would have wanted to see. I would love to more if it was Mark Wahlberg was the U.S. Marshal, was the, we can get on board with, Mark Wahlberg, and I wish and let's say it's Topher Grace or whatever, he's transporting him, that's all fine. And then having the pilot be a hitman, that's a great idea. I actually really like that idea, and there could have been a cool reveal there. But I wouldn't have put someone famous in that role. I guess I would have put a more unknown actor in that role. So then when he's in the pilot, you wouldn't think automatically, oh, that's the villain because it's Mark Wahlberg, Have the reveal a little more interesting to me. And I would have picked a bigger plane. To be honest, a big problem with this movie is that it's a small 3-person plane. So once Mark Wahlberg gets knocked out, it's only 2 people. And so most movies, just these 2 people talking to each other. And that's not that interesting. It's more interesting if you have more characters, more personalities, talking to, like Speed. Let's say Speed. Speed is interesting because you have a bunch of people on this bus, and you have your 2 main characters, bantering, and they're all these personalities, and they're all, talking, and you getting to know them. That's more interesting in a movie. Like, to me, this should have been Speed on an airplane, I guess. It would have been way more interesting if you had more characters involved, and the action scenes would have been more interesting because you had more people involved, maybe. and you could have killed some people, you know, because you can't just kill the main characters. The movie would be over if you only have two main characters. I mean, not counting Mark Wahlberg, but I mean, two main good guy characters. But to me, it's like you have more characters involved. You can do some more interesting stuff with the movie. You have more space to work in. That would have made, I think, a much more interesting movie. And yeah, and have that reveal, like have an interesting reveal where Mark Wahlberg starts realizing, wait a minute, stuff isn't adding up, you know. And then the pilot goes, if you get a good actor who can play the psycho part good, that's fine. I like that idea. Have a guy play the psycho, be nice at first, and then you find out that he's actually a psycho. That's great. Have that, whatever. And then have some action sequences, and then have Mark Wahlberg has to land the plane, and then he has to have the prisoner, you know, help him out or something like that, you know, and, oh, we're not so different, you and me, you know, that kind of thing. And then I would have like landed the plane, and you know what, I'm just explaining the movie Plane that came out like a year or two ago. I'm just explaining the exact plot to Plane with Gerard Butler, except Gerard Butler's the pilot and he's good. But take a similar situation as Plane, that movie Plane, and yeah, put in this where you have a psycho killer guy who's trying to kill him on a plane, but he can't kill him because then someone has to fly the plane or whatever. You know, you can do something with that. But that would have made it much, and Plane is a way better movie than this one. Like Plane, I really liked Plane. I thought it was a really good movie. And Plane came out early in the year too. So I think that was 2 years ago, maybe. Yeah, like Plane came out. But yeah, so to me, that's what I would have done. That would have made a much more interesting movie. And again, at some point, I would have gotten off the plane and had some more action sequences outside the plane. It would have been, just have the whole movie in a plane kind of is boring, you know, because your scenery is not changing. You're just in the same room, basically the whole movie. And it's just not interesting anyway. So yeah, that's a lot of my thoughts on this movie. Again, would not recommend it. I'd give it maybe 2 stars. If I'm generous, I'll give it like 2 out of 5 stars. It's 2 just still means it's a really bad movie. I'll save my ones for the even worse movies. I'm sure they'll come out this year, but it's not a good start to the year. Hopefully I'll find some better movies coming up. Besides that, that's my review for Flight Risk. Hope you enjoyed that. Give you an idea of what the movie's about, whether you want to see it or not. Besides that, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for liking it. Thank you to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate you all, and I hope you have